Welcome everyone to the Midweek Howl, the non-paranormal part of the From the Shadows podcast. I think I've got this all straight. So Howler, how was your evening? I'm not going to mention the T word, but how was everything going? Did everything go good?
Just usual. Yeah. I mean, it's just tennis match and then football practice, and then it's just one activity after another.
Now you sent me the scoreboard from last night, so you guys eked out a victory.
Yeah, I mean, and let me tell you something. Did you know when the clock runs out, they go ahead and give the other team 5 seconds?
Say what?
They ran that thing down. I got another. I sent it to you. Yeah. So our team, I sent it to you when, what was it? 2 seconds left or what? I don't remember what I sent to you, but our team essentially had 10 seconds to go, and they went down and they eked out a win. I'm looking at it right now. 10 seconds. So what they did was then they turned around and then let that other team, they put 5 seconds on the clock starting when the ball was received. So they didn't start the clock until those guys caught the ball. You know what I mean?
So you guys scored and they determined there was still time left on the clock and put it back on?
Yes. They ran out and then they put 5 seconds on the clock but didn't run it for us to kick the extra point. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then they turned around and give them 5 seconds. The other team 5 seconds.
Wow. So luckily the other team obviously had enough time to score in 5 seconds. I mean, anything can happen,
Uh-huh.
So holy smokes, that's crazy.
Well,
that is crazy. Kind of like the Ohio State game this last weekend,
I didn't watch it.
How can you call yourself a red-blooded American male and not watch the Ohio State Notre Dame game?
Well, I've been following some guys on Twitter that say Ohio's not a real place.
Maybe we should
It's
stop.
like some kind of space-time continuum, and it's got something to do with football. Yeah, it's not a real place.
It's not a real place.
Next time some of those guys start a big string, I'm going to send it to you. You can't call it Twitter anymore. You got to call it X, right?
Okay. Yeah, whatever.
So the next time they do that, I'm gonna
please include me.
I'm gonna tag you in, and I'm gonna send you to. I'm a Twitter voyeur. I can't get, I don't have any followers really. I don't, because
they don't come find you, the real Ozark Howler?
They don't. I've got 52 Norwegian, Eastern Bloc, Soviet looking Polish girls following me, but I don't have, with 0 followers. It's like I'm the first person they follow on Twitter, and
they're trying to sell you something.
I don't know. But yes. So I listen to people. I follow people that have tens of thousands of followers and say and do the dumbest things imaginable. So I'm comfortable in the fact that I have no followers, and I will not build a following, because if I've got to act stupid like these people, I just do not do it. Or say stupid things, or it's taken me a long time to realize what I say sometimes is not how people interpret it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
My transmission is not set up for everybody's reception.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the real problem is that your profile picture isn't of a Eastern Soviet Bloc female. Maybe if you change your profile picture,
I get some dudes.
Yeah, you get somebody.
I'll be honest with you. I'm working on a little shed in my backyard to get, like someplace to put my shovels and rakes and my lawnmower gas, stuff like that, right? So instead of going and buying one of these little overpriced portable sheds, I'm just building one. And today I was walking up the gravel of my driveway, and I thought I've got to go check my Powerball tickets from the weekend, because maybe I don't have to finish this. Maybe, I could be a multi-millionaire right now. And I got to thinking, would I do the podcast tonight if I had won the Powerball today?
Why wouldn't you? You wouldn't want to talk.
I don't know. I don't.
I mean,
know.
Imagine that conversation we'd have.
I don't think I would. What I'm saying is, first of all, I don't think I would. Obviously, you would want to mention that you won the Powerball, because you'd have all kinds of weirdos trying to come after you, and you know what I mean. And I'm too soft. I'd give all my money away, right? I'd run out of churches before I ran out of churches to give the money to. Before I'd run out of money, before I ran out of churches to donate to. So it's best if I just keep it all myself.
Oh man! Well,
unless they wanted to restart the Crusades, I was just up there watching something with my son,
You want to restart the Crusades?
In Portugal. Yeah, we were watching this thing in Portugal. I talked to my older son last night, and who's overseas, and we were talking about the supposed influx of migrants from North Africa into Europe right now. Tens of thousands of them a day. And he said, well, Dad, this was all Moors and Muslim 500 years ago. So, I mean, they're just taking it back, right? And I said, yes, you are 100% correct. They are taking it back. And we don't have a society that understands that. But maybe in 1,000 years, we'll get a King Richard, or we'll get somebody that wants to do on a crusade and get it back. Or we won't. I don't know.
The only crusade I really liked was the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
I love all the Indiana Jones.
That was my. What's that?
I love all the Indiana Jones films.
I haven't seen the new one yet. I wanted to get to the theater.
I've watched every single one. Well, the last one wore me a little bit. I mean, it wasn't near the. I think part of the beauty of them is when we were 9, 10, 11. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say the world was simpler, but it was simpler, right?
Yeah, seemed to be. Yeah.
And you could just like watching Star Wars. You watch Star Wars now, and there's some few things that some of the lightsaber scenes and laser shootouts and stuff kind of look hokey, right?
But I like I
like it. I'm not saying I'm just saying I like it, but I can see because it doesn't easily impress my kids because they grew up with whatever, Harry Potter or whatever.
Well, we're gonna segue right into impressing kids with a story that I shared with you that was shared with
kids,
that was shared with me. I don't know how many of our listeners saw this, but here's the headlines. 2 Florida kids stole their mother's car after she took away their electronics, and they were pulled over 200 miles away.
Well, they got money. How'd they have that much gas in the car? That's a rich set of parents, so they wouldn't have gas to go 200 miles.
Oh my gosh. Well, authorities in North Florida were surprised to discover a 10-year-old behind the wheel when they pulled over a stolen vehicle this week. Officers pulled over a white sedan on I-75 just before 4 a.m. Thursday in the city of Alachua. The vehicle had been reported stolen out of Northport, a city in southwest Florida, more than 200 miles away. And it was a high-risk traffic stop because the car had been reported stolen. And not only was the 10-year-old driving, his 11-year-old sister was in the passenger side.
I'd have blamed her. Mm-hmm.
And so what I found crazy is that then, they called the mom. She came and got them. Okay. And of course they were mad. She took their electronics away from them. So of course I'm going to take her car. She takes my cell phone. I'm going to take her car. And the kids actually, and this is the part I thought we might have a little bit of a discussion about, they didn't even get in trouble for it because number one, the mom didn't want to press charges because that was the crime, the stolen vehicle. So she didn't want to press charges. And they said the Department of Juvenile Justice won't even do anything to a kid that young because it's a misdemeanor criminal traffic violation. So essentially, because their mom didn't file charges, they got off scot-free.
Even if mom wouldn't have the ability to file charges, the juvenile didn't want to mess with them. Now, hey, I hate to tell you this. I know you live in a land of cotton candy and
I do not
parades. Okay. But
I live in Ohio. It doesn't exist. Remember,
that's what I'm saying. You're in the land of make believe. So in the real world, people are raped, robbed, and pillaged American society at the free will right now, and they're not getting any trouble. Okay.
So it's not just a 10 and 11.
Yeah, so it's not just a 10-year-old. They could have been 40-year-old, dudes. They don't get in trouble anymore.
I know some people that get in trouble.
And I'm sure the freaking cops are like, I've probably told these stories on the podcast earlier on. 25 years ago, I was a state trooper in the county I live in right now. Okay, mm-hmm. I'm throwing that out. Dr. Yo-Yo and some of them people probably knew that, but they'll know where I'm coming from because they lived here 25 years ago. That's some local listeners I have here. And I was going down the old highway. I was going down 54, and on the other side of Meads Flat, you can take a right and go up to W. It's on the old highway. So the new 4-lane, my whole life, I don't remember it being 2-lane, but it's old highway. You know how when you turn off and you can tell, well, this was the old highway full of curves and stuff, right?
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
so I used to drive some of them old outer roads and stuff because that's where all the criminals would drive. Because back in my day, they were afraid of the cops, right? So they would drive the back roads, gravel roads. They would do shortcuts because they were driving with dope or without a license or whatever the case may be. So I turn off the 4 lane and I don't go a mile, and this car passes me, and it was I don't remember. You remember we had so many turd box cars 30 years ago, 25 years ago. It was like a mid 80s. I don't think it was a K car. It was like an Olds or Buick or Pontiac. Remember they had all those 4-door front wheel drive cars from the 80s. You know what I mean? That everybody's parents had one.
Of course.
It was all muddy because it came off this gravel road, and I don't remember why, but I turned around on him. And I don't remember why, but I followed him into this. There's a convenience store parking lot. He went all the way. He went in the direction I was coming from, and at the intersection of the 4 lane and the old highway, there's a gas station there. So I pulled in behind him at the gas station. I lit him up, and when he gets out of the car, he's 10 or 11 years old. And I said, "Hey, dude, where's your driver's license?" He said, "I don't have one." I said, "How old are you?" He said, 11. And I said, "What do you get?" He said, "Dad sent me down here to get a gallon of milk." I said, "Where's he at?" "Well, he's in the shower. He's getting ready for work, and he didn't have time to do it." So he told me if I wanted some cereal, I had to get down here and get it because he's taking the car to work.
Okay.
So I said, "Go in and get your milk and come back out." And he goes in and gets a jug of milk. And of course, the quick shop's all looking out the window. You know, the girl. And this is back in the days when these kids would sign a ticket for what they wanted. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So because he ain't got no money, he's 10. So he signs the ticket for this jug of milk, comes out, and I said, "Here, you got to hop in my car, buddy." So I put him in a jug of milk on the right side of my patrol car. I spun around. I said, "Show me where you live." So we go back up, turn on the gravel. You know, we don't go 2 miles, 3 miles at the top, and pull in this driveway, get out, follow him up to the door, and when he opens the door, I can hear his old man hollering, "What took you so long? I told you I got to go to work." And he said, "Well, the cops want to talk to you." And his dad's like, "Yeah, right." And then this dude comes out, and he's going to, he's just a factory working dude working like 3 to 11 or whatever. And there he was looking at me. He's like, "Are you effing kidding me?"
I sent you to the store, and you can't even get that right.
Mm-hmm.
So he's probably mad at the kid because he got pulled over.
Yeah, well, he's just like, "Well, I guess I'm in trouble now." And I said, "What am I going to do?" I said, "Back in my day, you were scared of the parents more than the cops, but apparently you give them the effing keys." So I said, "No, he's yours. I don't want to," because the juvenile down here is in the adjoining county, and they got some. Back in them days, it was real bad people,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because I would have to take you to juvenile. They would have to call. This is a first-time offender. I don't want to say from half. If the family and the kids had been in the system, they're not going to do anything to these kids because they've got kids that's been busted 50 times. You know what I mean? They got kids holding up gas stations and shit. You know what I mean? So I tell the dad, I said, "Here, I'll take you back." He goes, "Where's the car?" I said, "It's about the quick shop. I couldn't let him drive. Here, hurry it. Come on,
I got things to do."
"Yeah, come with me. If you want me to give you a ride back to your car." And he goes, "Yeah, I need a ride. I got to go to work." And I said, "Okay." So I took his dad up to the car and kicked him out.
I've never heard that story before. That's priceless. Mm-hmm. I mean, we used to have, I used to work at the one drive-through in town, and the first time this little girl came in, and she had purple hair so this is back in the early 90s, and she had purple hair, and she came in, and she couldn't have been more than 13, and she's trying to buy a pack of cigarettes.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like,
I bought a medium pack of cigarettes when I was a kid.
But I said, "I can't sell these to you." And
did you tell her to go home and get a note?
No, Pudge came walking up. Pudge, the guy who owned the, big old burly guy, goes,
with a name like Pudge, I could just imagine look like Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Workout freak. Mm-hmm.
He goes, "You got a note?"
Yeah,
"Where's the note at?" And she pulls this note out and puts it, and it's like, I can't even remember the girl's name. She passed away here not too long ago, actually.
The girl that bought the cigarettes?
The girl that bought the cigarettes.
Yeah, she's probably scamming them off her grandma. She probably freaking reused the note. She was probably signing it for her grandma.
I know. So he goes, he sold her the cigarettes, and he goes, "Grover, He goes, if he come in with a note, you could sell him the cigarettes. And I'm like, really? And he goes, yep. Okay.
And I knew you was that. That's where I was going. I used to pedal my bike down to the convenient food bar when I would stay at my grandma's in the summer. My mom would drop me off at my grandma's with my bicycle and go to Safeway, and me and my brother would just have the west side of town we could just ride our bikes wherever the hell we wanted. You know what I mean? Because that was before 1,000 kids would get kidnapped. You know what I mean? And we're going to segue that story in a second, but
yeah,
we would pedal down. She would give us a 20, and this says so much about the world we're in today, right? Because you could go down, you could pedal your bike down there, you could buy 2 sodas, a ton of junk food, a carton. I'm not talking a pack. I'm talking a carton of Camels with no filter, and still have over $10 worth of change left. I mean, we were buying carton. I remember when the carton of cigarettes got $10 a carton, and she was flipping a gasket. I think I was driving by that time. My
$10 a carton. $10 barely buys you 2 packs now.
My grandma never had a driver's license, so I went from pedaling my bike to taking her. When I was in high school, I took her to the store probably every other weekend, to Aldi's or Food for Less or wherever she wanted to go. She'd clip coupons and shit, and old little bitty 5'4", 90-pound woman. And she would buy like 2 cans of beans and 1 can, you know what I mean? Just real frugal, just whatever, and it's like, Grandma, I used to have a big old jacked up truck, and I'd have to have her get in it. It's like, dude, I burned $52 with gas coming here and taking you to the store, and you can buy $7 worth of groceries. But that's a whole different. Mm-hmm. But you could let your kids just run amok and buy cigarettes because the world was just a better place. I mean, the world was a better place, right?
You sent me this article today.
1,000 kids,
1,000. Okay, so more than 1,000 kids reporting missing in Ohio this year. And
now, some of those are probably overstays at the ex-wife's house, and so some of them are going to be, you know what I mean? The numbers are probably skewed, but a lot of them aren't. Right?
Well, even if it's half, even if it's 500, that's crazy. But here's the thing: is in my book, 1 kid getting taken is way too many.
And part of that, now hold on, now I know we don't go. I shouldn't even go down this road, right, with you, because
then don't. You better.
This is why I can't get more followers on Twitter, because I hearken back to a simpler time, okay, when the bad people stayed in the shadows, right? So 25 or 30 years ago, only the smartest bad people could get away. John Wayne Gacy's could get away with something, because if you were because you were asking me earlier today about trafficking, remember?
Yeah.
And I said, no, because we wouldn't have allowed it. And what I'm saying by that is, when it comes to children or victim type crimes like that, the law enforcement 25, 30 years ago used to be pretty heavy handed. Now, I don't want to say, go watch the Russell Crowe movie, LA Confidential.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And let me tell you something. I worked for what would, a Democrat sheriff. Okay. And let me tell you something, buddy. He didn't care about speeding tickets. He went so far as, they didn't even have radar guns in most of the deputy cars, because he didn't want you, you know what I mean, writing people tickets going to work. If you're out there writing a ticket, you're letting some criminal go by. You know what I mean? You need to be figuring out who's breaking into people's sheds, who's doing this, who's doing that. And when you had, it's funny we're talking about this, because I was telling the story the other day that I had applied for a job with the state. And anyway, the long story of longest, and I had said this in an interview, because they asked about it was about supervising violent offenders for probation parole. And I said, hey, I grew up in a time where in Missouri, sexual offenders have 7 days to register with the police department or sheriff's department of the community they move to, right? So if they move county to county, town to town, whatever, they've got 7 days to register with either the, a bigger town police department, smaller town, the sheriff's office, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we get that stuff at the post office every time.
Yes. So
guys move, you get the little thing.
And it's against the law for them to what's called fail to register. And it's a what they call violatable, crime. And I worked for a sheriff that, buddy, if it was day 8, their ass was in jail.
Well, they should be.
There was no, I didn't have time. I couldn't get off work or whatever. And I told this in this interview, and the people said, well, that's not really how we can treat them now. And I said, well, did the law change? And they said, no, there's just so many of them. It's kind of hard for us to do all that paperwork. And I thought, hire some more people. I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? I just know that 30 years ago, there would have been a task force. It would have been very heavy-handed. And they would get to the bottom, get to the answers to some of this stuff. And unfortunately,
we're too busy writing speeding tickets.
We're too busy, dude. There's just too many layers of this onion to peel. You know what I'm saying? There's just too many layers of onion to peel.
Well, I like to think that, you know, it can't happen in our town. That's what you always think. But I'm sure I'd be surprised at the number of, because we're not far from where this article's from. Like, I'm less than an hour away from some of these places that they're talking about in there. And like I said, you know, Christy and Izzy went to Toledo last night for a shop. They went shopping for something, and they stopped at, you know, our Ohio listeners will know where Upper Sandusky is, which is right on Route 23, which then takes you up to Toledo. And Christy was very alert when it comes to this trafficking stuff. And she has to be, number one, you know, she worked and drove back and forth to Cleveland, which is the area that, you know, they're talking about. But two, she's in international law and shipping, and there's a lot of stuff they just got to know and watch out for because of stuff coming in and out of the country. Okay. And
back when they cared about it.
But yeah, well, I guess. Well, they still do. She still does. I mean, that's part of her job. And so she's on high alert all the time. And she said they're there in Upper Sandusky, which is just a nice little farming community, you know. But the interstate, one of the interstates goes right through there. And she said that Izzy was sitting in the car and she was pumping the gas, and a guy in a U-Haul truck sat there, and she goes, now maybe she's reading into it, but she said this guy was scoping Izzy out and waiting to see if she like walked away from the car, like to walk into the gas station or something. And she said, you know, the guy sat there, got on his phone, is looking at Izzy, checking her out, you know, waiting. She goes, it's almost like he's taught. She goes, I was waiting for another car to pull up. She goes, like he was on the phone with somebody, like, you know, and that's the point where she's at. Like, she's telling Izzy, you can't even stop at one of these gas stations along the freeway or even on the outskirts of any small town, because I just don't trust other people's intentions. And it's crazy to even think that we're in a society like that at this point, you know? It's just crazy to me.
Well, I'm going to tell you, we are. You know, and I don't know what's going to make it better. I have some ideas, but it's going to take a generation or two for them to pay dividends.
Yeah. I like, when it comes to that sort of stuff, there has to be zero tolerance in my book. You know, when it comes to the kids stuff, I mean, there just has to be, there can't even be any gray area, you know?
Mm-hmm. You know, the French with the guillotine had zero recidivism. You know what I mean? They didn't have any repeat offenders. So
that's true.
You know, I keep reading where these states have to suspend the death penalty because they can't get whatever, you know, the company that made whatever sodium pentothal or whatever they put those people to sleep with, you know, death row people. You know what I'm talking about?
How many public guillotine things do you think it would take?
I don't know. France did a couple 100,000, I think.
But did it turn into where they just, if they didn't like somebody and you were an enemy of,
that's totally just like here in America. You know, it's generally estimated. Hold on a second. Between 600,000 and 1.3 million. I'm going to look for guillotines. Yes, that's what happens, and you get a bunch of the good people rounded up. You know, but you know, sometimes you got to break some eggs to make an omelet. Just 15,000 to 17,000. They did the king. I think once they did the king, the brakes came off.
The brakes came.
Yeah, because once you can whack the king, I mean, you know what I'm saying? I didn't even think about this, but it reminds me of something else. But yeah, once you can whack the king, What's it matter? You know what's funny is I was reading about a dude last night, Lafayette, the famous general.
Yes.
You know who I'm talking about because he
I,
fought out there. You know who I'm talking about.
yeah.
There's streets named after him, nice neighborhoods named after him all over America.
Mm-hmm.
And he fell out of favor because he was against guillotining the king. He said, let's just exile him. And the mob says, no, he's got to go.
So they just off with his head.
Yep. And then they essentially ostracized. Lafayette had to leave. He went to the Dutch, I think. They seized his property and sold it. And I was reading, I don't even know how to even get on this, but how we're going off the rails on this, but I was reading about these weird social clubs in Harvard, like the Fly Club or the Porcelain Club. Have you ever heard of them?
I've never heard of those, no.
Apparently the Porcelain Club is the most exclusive, essentially fraternity, if you will, in the world. Okay, so Teddy Roosevelt got in, but FDR didn't.
Really?
Old man Bush got in, but his junior didn't. They didn't let Kennedy in because he was Catholic, either Kennedy, the old man Joe or his kid John F. So that segued into reading about. It segued when I was reading about these famous people. One of them was famous for buying Lafayette's. They were industrial magnates. A lot of them, you know. One of the things he did, because he was the eighth son. I'll look him up. The eighth son of somebody super rich back in the 1800s, right? So he wasn't going to get any money. So he joined the army and he went around the world. He went to Africa, just did all kinds of stuff and ended up rich anyway. But one of the things he did when he was over in France, he visited where Lafayette was born. And when he heard the story or knew the story that they had seized that, for him just simply trying to do something like humane, say, and spare the king, he bought it and redid the whole thing to its former glory, and now it's a museum. And I kicked myself because me and my brother and son drove right by it last year, and we were over there, and I didn't even stop. You know, of course, you get over there, and every wide spot's got a freaking castle. So how can you see them all?
That's true.
Castle over there is like a Wawa over here, or a Come and Go, or what kind of gas stations you got out there?
Gosh, what do we have?
Buc-ee's? What do y'all have? I don't even know what you got.
We don't have that. Well, I guess they're starting here. We have like
they're building a Buc-ee's down about an hour from me that's got 100 gas pumps.
We have like Pilots and stuff like that.
So everywhere, that's an even better one. Because so you got a Pilot or Love's, you got to go 10 or 15 miles for them, 20 miles. Yeah. So for every Pilot and Love's here, they have a fortified mansion / castle. And for just every generic gas station, they have a pile of rocks that's either a church or a place where somebody famous died or killed somebody. Died or survived.
I think we're getting the short end of the stick on that, don't you? I'd trade in a couple.
One of these days,
trade in a couple Pilots for
one of these days. First of all, I think it takes some 10, 15 years to stack all them rocks up. So I think we would maybe have less trafficking and crime if we could force a part of the pop. If you had to work, right? If you didn't stack enough rocks, they didn't feed you. I mean,
or they sent you to the guillotine.
The problem is they had to send him to guillotine because what would happen is if you made this dude stack rock for 20 years, I mean, he'd be cut up. I mean, he'd be MMA your ass. If all you were doing eating cheese and grapes, watching him stack rocks, it'd be like Conan pushing that circle thing and eventually gets so big he cuts James Earl Ray's head off.
Oh, my gosh. Mm-hmm. Oh, my gosh. Well, before we sign off here, I want to mention two things. Last week's episode, I probably got 5 people who want us to put on a shirt.
On acid.
They want to know.
They want us to. They were on acid.
They want us. Well, we might have more than 5 people on acid, but I got at least 5 requests for your quote last week that they would know if the Howler found Bigfoot because I'd shoot the effer.
Effing thing, yeah.
I said, well, I'll put Nita on that. We'll see if we can get if there's a special order, maybe we can get some special T-shirts made to the super fans.
I think that's what you need to say. If you see Bigfoot, shoot the effing thing. Maybe I don't know.
And
shoot him.
And I'm going to. So I got a text. It sounds like next year, we are going to do a live show with Hillbilly Horror Stories.
Well, it's the story of my life, right?
Is
that what I got to do? Is go up there?
That's what I'm told. Jerry reached out to me and said, we're going to do a live show together. He goes, I'll send you the detail. We'll figure out the details.
Only if I can do it in my hair lip voice.
You can do it in whatever. Look, this is live. This is going to be live. I don't even know what we can plan, but I figure we might only get to do it once. So we're going to pull out all the stuff.
Hopefully, I hope it's some sunny destination, a good destination.
I don't know if it's going to be, I think it's going to be somewhere in Ohio or Indiana or Tennessee somewhere.
So there you go.
Mm-hmm. And then, and I want to thank all of our listeners who went on and downloaded, streamed, watched, listened the Wade Jennings EP and song from Before the Dawn. The EP, I don't know if you saw it. If did I send it to you? At one point on Friday, reached 38 on the iTunes chart, on the iTunes country chart.
At one point, you mean it fluctuates all day?
Yeah, it does, based on sales. So it had enough sales that it entered at the top 40 on the iTunes for a short period of time. I mean, it was a couple hours, but it was kind of cool. I don't think it was expected by everybody. The YouTube video is like doing gangbuster. I mean, look, Taylor Swift puts out a video on YouTube. It's got 50 million views, okay, within a week. We're thinking that, Wade's video in a week might get to 250,000, which is huge for him. Huge. He's very excited. So I just want to thank everyone, because I know I got a lot of messages from some of our fans and listeners through Instagram, especially, and just saying, hey, checked out the song. It was great. So we appreciate, Wade appreciates it. So everybody out there, and I think we're going to try to get him on for an episode. Come on with me and you. Talk a little outlaw country. Talk about his grandpa. How about that?
It sounds great. That sounds.
I think that'd be fun.
I'm holding my breath already. It sounds so good.
Holy smokes! Well,
you get any other texts or emails you want to go by?
No, nothing too bad. Nothing too bad.
So hate mail. Give me some hate mail.
We didn't get any hate mail. I mean, we're
not trying hard enough. My old sergeant said if you weren't getting complained on, you ain't working. So next week I'll try to do something and get complained on.
Oh gosh, I can hardly wait.
Well, I don't know.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.